Think about how many things Brook has in his bag. He's a swordsman, a Devilfruit user, he has music-based attacks, he's a skeleton, and he dons one of the best afros in the game. So for Brook's video in the Straw Hat Power series, I want to discuss why I think he's the most versatile Straw Hat fighter, and potential future power-ups such as Hockey, Devilfruit Awakening, a new sword, and more. But let's start with breaking down Brook's current powers, because one thing I think that gets kinda overlooked is how experienced of a fighter he is. We always talk about how Jinbei is the most experienced, and don't get me wrong, he definitely is, but Brook, he's the oldest. It's just that he spent 50 years of it doing nothing and spending it by himself, but even before he died, he was 38 years old, and that would make him the oldest Straw Hat right behind Jinbei. So overall, Brook has a lot of experience, he's a veteran pirate, and even before he became a pirate, he was a leader of a battle convoy in a kingdom. It doesn't get showed in the story too much of like Brook proving his expertise and his experience, but he's a very experienced fighter, and I'm guessing from all that experience, he's become a very good swordsman. If you think about it, before he really joined the Straw Hats, he fought mostly as a swordsman for most of his life. Even when he got the Yomi Yomi no Mi, it did nothing for him until he died. So really for the majority of his life, he was fighting as a swordsman and honing his skills as a swordsman. And because we already have somebody that's literally gonna become the world's greatest swordsman on the crew, Brook kinda gets overshadowed. But Brook is a very good swordsman, it's really his main form of attack. I really love how it's very different from Zoro as well. Brook focuses on like more of a fencing style, he focuses a lot more on speed. The sword type that he uses is called the Shiko Mizue, which I'm sure I butchered, but it's essentially like a concealed blade within a cane, and he also uses that to play music sometimes, which is really cool. So Brook definitely has a very unique style of swordsmanship and a very unique blade. I do still think he needs an upgrade, but we'll talk about that later. But yeah, for Brook's swordsmanship, it's very good. Even pre-time skip, he was showcased to be a very capable swordsman. He was weaker than Zoro still, but even against like the zombie of Ryuma, he was kind of holding his own for a bit. But post time skip, I think we underestimate how much Brook has improved as a swordsman. His skills as a swordsman were really showcased in Punk Hazard when he clashed with Kinemon. Now granted, it was just the upper torso of Kinemon, and some of you might still think Kinemon is weak, but from what Kinemon has showcased in the last few chapters, he's no joke. And Brook was going torso to torso with this dude. And I feel like throughout Punk Hazard, it was kind of showcased and portrayed that Brook is kind of even to Kinemon. They had that moment later on of both together cutting down the dragon, which, interesting note there, the dragon's scales is noted to be as hard as steel, which low-key is a callback to Alabasta, where Zoro had that big overcoming of his weakness of being unable to cut Da's bones. And now technically Brook could kind of do that as well, so just goes to show how far the Straw Hats have come. On top of that, he also upgraded his sword in a couple of ways. First off, it got sharpened a bit by the Long Arm tribe, so it's a little bit better, I guess. But the big upgrade is how he combined it with his Devilfruit powers to give it kind of this freezing ice effect, and now he renamed his sword to Soul Solid. And with that, let's just talk about his Devilfruit powers, which are very interesting because for most of his life, well, technically like a third of his life, but for most of his active life was completely useless. But for Brook in particular, this fruit really upgraded him. Not only did it save his life, but the fact that he did not find his body right away and is now a skeleton, low-key is a huge upgrade. We don't really think of it that way because you think a skeleton really fragile, really easy to break, but it actually helps him in a lot of different ways that we kind of forget about. Even like last chapter, we saw he was immune to the ice demon effect because he doesn't have any skin or blood, and that's not the only thing he's been immune from. He's been shown to be immune to like things like the coldness and also lightning, so he's almost similar to Luffy in that way. I'm pretty sure he was immune to one of Caesar's gas attacks as well, but there's plenty of other things that he's probably immune to just because he doesn't have skin and blood and all that kind of stuff. On top of that, you have a very practical thing where he's able to just crack his head open and store things in his skull, which seems like kind of a joke, but that's how he stole the copies of the Road Poneglyph from Big Mom. And also with the skeleton body, I mentioned how we think it's like very weak and easily damaged, but low-key, he's able to recover really easily because if he does get cut and breaks his bones, all he needs is a glass of milk, maybe some Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and he's good to go. And post time skip, after he figured out his soul Devilfruit a little more, he's literally able to get decapitated and still reattach his head completely fine. As long as his bones don't get completely shattered, apparently he's fine. Another major power boost from this skeleton body is the fact that he is very light, so that makes him incredibly fast, and paired with his fencing style style of swordsmanship makes him very dangerous. His iconic attack of where he cuts people so fast they don't even realize it, and then he tells them you've already been cut, that's one of the most badass moves, I think. But yeah, Brook being a skeleton makes him really fast. So fast, in fact, that he's the fastest Straw Hat, which Oda confirmed in the SBS. And that SBS came during Whole Cake Island, so post time skip. Now, they are referring to a foot race, so it's not really talking about Sanji using like Skywalk or Luffy in Gear 4th, and I'm sure Sanji with this raid suit is definitely faster than Brook, but Brook shows you how fast he is. And speaking of Sanji, one of the things that makes him unique is his ability to essentially fly with Skywalk and his raid suits. But Brook, because of how light he is, he could jump dumb high into the air, like pretty much he's flying, honestly. So yeah, his skeleton body has so many upgrades and boosts of power that we kind of just overlook. Like what I mentioned earlier about the decapitation, that's really interesting to me, because if he found his body in like a human functioning form, would he still be able to do that? We don't know, but right now, because Brook is a skeleton, he's able to do that. So his skeleton body already gives him a lot of upgrades and makes him very versatile, and that was just a random byproduct of his Devilfruit. The actual powers of his Devilfruit expand much beyond that. After the time skip was really when Brook kind of really figured out the purpose of his fruit and how to utilize his powers. He really figured out that he had a much stronger connection to souls and the underworld. One of the things he was able to figure out how to do was literally remove his soul from his body and kind of travel around as a soul. It's almost like an astral projection type of thing. Now, it really isn't that useful in terms of like battle or anything, but for like sneaking around, it's something versatile to have. Also, as I mentioned earlier, somehow he's able to reconnect his soul to his body, so even if he gets decapitated, he's still fine. It almost feels like after the time skip, he's like surpassed the limits of the human body and is able to really like separate the soul and the body and kind of utilize them separately, whereas regular people have their soul kind of contained within the body and they could just use it as one whole. Brook's body is still very important, where he mentioned like if his bones are shattered, he'll still die, but him being able to kind of separate the two gives him a lot of flexibility. But beyond that, another connection that he found out was like a connection to the underworld, and that was paired with his swordsmanship, like I mentioned earlier, making his sword have this like freezing ice effect. He called his sword the Soul Solid because of it. There's not much else that he mentions in terms of that connection to the underworld. It's really so far just to draw that like cold, freezing despair from the underworld and use it as a power. We'll definitely get more into that when we talk about his awakening. But yeah, beyond the connection to the underworld, he also feels that much stronger connection to souls, and one of the most unique things about this is that he's one of two people, him and Marco, able to damage Big Mom's homies. And for him, it's because he has like the soul power, and he's also showcased the ability of using his own soul to like overpower like weaker souls. And of course, that very low-key made him a counter to Big Mom and gave him a lot of dope moments in Whole Cake Island. And he was actually able to apply that to his music attacks. And now we get to his music attacks, another category of attacks that he has access to. Now, even before he kind of figured out a stronger connection to his soul, he already showcased music attacks pre-time skip. He was able to like play a lullaby and a slow song and put people to sleep. One thing that really interested me is when Brook got sent away by Kuma to that village with the long arm tribe being like bothersome, the villagers actually solved that issue by themselves and attacked the long arm tribe, and they were able to do that because Brook had played some kind of like inspiring music to make him do that, which low-key kind of gives him Bello Betty's attack in a way. Now, of course, Bello Betty could like actually make the people stronger, but yeah, even pre-time skip, Brook could do a lot of different things with his musical attacks in affecting different people. But post-time skip, after he spent 2 years training and selling out stadiums, he really figured out how to combine his music with his soul. He even said himself like he realized that his music was affecting people's souls on a stronger level because of his Devilfruit. So now he's able to kind of do what he did to a whole nother level, where instead of just like making people feel different things like fall asleep, feeling inspired, he's almost able to like put them in a completely different environment and make them believe they're somewhere else because of his music. So yeah, with that, he adds a whole nother category of attacks into his bag, and at this point, I don't think I need to explain why he's the most versatile Straw Hat fighter. Like, he's got all these different things that other people don't have. But guess what? Just like every other Straw Hat, Brook can still get stronger. Despite the fact that he's 90 years old and he's a skeleton, he's still somehow able to continue to get stronger, and he definitely will get stronger because the story will require it. So let's talk about what Brook can upgrade and how he can power up and get stronger. Now, in terms of his body, the only real upgrade there is Haki, and out of Armament Haki and Observation Haki, I do feel like Armament is way more fitting for Brook. I do love the idea. I believe Tekken fucking came up with this, Black Bones Brook, making his entire body, his entire skeleton just black and hockey, that would be badass, that would be fire. But if we realistically think about it, it just wouldn't make much sense for him to do that. We have seen other people coat their entire bodies in hockey. I think Pika did it and Virgo did it. But Brook is not like a melee fighter. He's a swordsman at the end of the day. So if he's fighting, he'll probably apply hockey to his sword instead. Maybe when he's defending, he'll put like a bone or two into hockey to defend. But I really don't think he'll turn his like entire body into hockey, but I would love to see it. It sounds great. But yeah, with armament hockey, I do think it would make sense for him to get it. Ultimately, I think all of the Straw Hats should either get hockey or some sort of sea stone upgrade. Brook is also a very experienced fighter, as we mentioned, so him getting hockey would kind of make sense because he's been through the ringer and been through a lot of battles. I will say there hasn't really been a lot of foreshadowing towards him getting hockey, and it's not a scenario like Robin, who was with Dragon during the time skip, so she had access to all that knowledge. Brook, on the other hand, was with some random ass long arm tribe members, and pretty much he was just training by himself and doing tours. But I do think he should get armament hockey at some point, especially because like as we progress in the story, the opponents are only gonna get stronger, and hockey in general is just not that much of a commodity anymore, especially in the new world. Most of the Straw Hats I feel like should have some sort of it. And for Brook, armament would definitely fit him more. Observation would definitely be cool and would help him, but I don't think he needs it. Now next, let's talk about Brook's sword, because I have been pushing for Brook to get a new sword. An idea I've been pushing in a couple of videos is Brook getting the Nidai Katetsu, and for me that's really like the idea of a cursed sword, and Brook is this like weird skeleton that controls souls and stuff. So thematically it might kind of fit, but a lot of you have pointed out like Brook is a fencing swordsman. It really wouldn't make sense for him to get a katana like the Nidai Katetsu, and I agree. I don't think it's likely that he will get the Nidai Katetsu, but I still want Brook to get a new sword. Like his current sword, cool and all, very unique. I know it's sharpened a little bit, but we need to get our dude at least a Mado sword. Like come on, we're in Wano right now. There are a lot of great swordsmiths. I'm sure somebody can make a walking cane sword for Brook. It looks like Zoro's gonna end up with 3 great grade swords by the end of Wano. Like Brook can at least get like a standard Mado sword. It can have some new unique designs, not only on the sword blade, but also like the handle. Oda could definitely get really creative and have a lot of fun with this. And once Brook gets that sword and applies like the freezing effect to it, ooh girl. But next, let's talk about the big upgrade for Brook, and that will be his Devilfruit Awakening. Now, from the thumbnail, for those of you that read Solo Leveling, I think you know where I'm going with this. I think it's very possible that Brook's Devilfruit Awakening is gonna be a Necromancer. Now, a lot of people have speculated Brook's Devilfruit Awakening to have more to do with souls and like manipulating souls of some sort, but Brook's Devilfruit is not the soul fruit. That's Big Mom's fruit, and that's another video in itself. Brook's fruit at the end of the day is the revive fruit, and he has showcased a lot of soul powers, and he is called the Soul King. But I feel like if he does awaken that fruit, the power should connect back to the base of the fruit, which is to revive people. Now, I don't think he's gonna be able to like bring back the dead and like revive Kazuki Odin or something, but from what we've seen so far, Paramecia's, their Devilfruit Awakening affects the environment in some way. And for Brook, how does he do that? Well, he does have like some sort of connection to the underworld that he is starting to build already. So maybe when he awakens this, he's able to like communicate to the dead, maybe bring them back to life really quick and kind of utilize them. You could do that in different ways, have them as just spirits or astral projection, or do it like the Moria and Big Mom style and stick them into something else. Again, I don't think he should be able to bring back people and keep them alive, but being able to like communicate with the dead and kind of utilize them, that would be pretty badass. And honestly, what better place to do it than Wano, where a lot of people have died and are probably looking for vengeance. And if it does happen in Onigashima right now, it could create like a very emotional, impactful scene. The samurai maybe start seeing like former friends that got wrongfully killed in Onigashima. Ashura Doji maybe sees the spirits of all those friends that couldn't wait anymore and charged on Onigashima. If we want to get wild with it, maybe Odin is one of those spirits. I don't think these spirits are gonna be as strong as their previous selves, obviously, but even at half and quarter strength, and depending on how many people Brook is able to summon and use, that will be very, very powerful. Like think about how badass that will be. Brook is fighting in Wano, he summons all these spirits. He awakens Hockey too. We get Black Bones Brook. He gets a new sword. At that point, Brook might become my favorite Straw Hat. Final thing I want to touch on before I end this video, the music attacks. I touched on this mostly in my last video, but if Brook is able to really get a fight with Apu, which I'm really hoping he gets, I think that's where he'll really be able to showcase his music knowledge and music powers and be able to maybe counter Apu's attacks. Maybe he'll teach Apu a lesson on like how to actually use instruments. He'll be like, young man, you're using this all wrong. What is this blasphemous music that you're playing? And like, it would be kind of funny because it's like the generational gap of music too. Brook plays the violin and like very classical stuff. Meanwhile, you have Apu who's like a DJ. Also, another thing is like Brook has very good hearing because he's such a great musician. So that could be one way he counters Apu. Maybe as Apu is launching attacks, Brook is hearing so good and he can like kind of dodge it or something. I just really want that fight. Like, I don't need everything to happen in this video, but Oda, please give me some of these things. But yeah, overall, those are my thoughts on Brook and why he's the most versatile Straw Hat and what his potential power-ups could be. But what about you guys? What do you think about Brook's powers in general? What do you think about his potential power-ups? Let me know in the comments below. As always, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did enjoy, please hit that like button. Helps a lot with the YouTube algorithm. If you want to keep up to date with this channel, you gotta hit that subscribe button, hit the bell to get notified. The King's Pirate crew is now over 7,300 members. If you want to interact with your fellow crewmates, the King Pirates Discord is linked in the description below. Be sure to follow me on Twitter. I'm DKing4, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace!